Well, Tony, it's great to meet you. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Um, I love that we're talking about diabetes. Let me start with a basic question. I'm not asking for exact statistics, but how prevalent in our society are type 1 and type 2 diabetes? You're educating the public where you're located, but what percentage by and large would you expect have this
So,
disease?
type 2 diabetes is much more common than type 1 diabetes. But the numbers just, are just as the years go on, they just skyrocket from, 1 to 10. One in every 10 Americans has
Wow.
diabetes, either type 1 or type 2. So,
That's that's I mean, that's like 10%, but I think that's still a big number. Has that number increased
yes.
over time?
Yep, over the years, starting from like the 1950s, it's just, it's an epidemic now where the amount of people with diabetes just each year continues to climb. Um, and it's just, there's many reasons, lifestyle, we're just less active, we're eating more, we're eating bigger portions. So there's a lot of reasons why those numbers just keep going, and we're living longer.
Yeah, I would argue living longer is probably pretty good, especially if you're a mature person. I'd like
Mhm.
to live as long but obviously we're going to deal with chronic health conditions like diabetes. How do you differentiate between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? I think that might be helpful for myself and the audience.
Mhm. So type 1 diabetes, they call it, it's an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks the part of your pancreas that makes insulin. All right. So insulin is a hormone which regulates blood sugar. And when you have any kind of autoimmune, your immune system just kind of goes haywire and is attacking you instead of protecting you. So with type 1 diabetes, the body no longer makes any insulin, and there are certain blood tests that they can draw antibodies to definitively diagnose you with type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, there's no definitive like antibody test, but there's blood work. There would be your glucose level, whether it be a fasting glucose level or a random, and then another test called the hemoglobin A1C. So these are some of the blood tests that they can tell if you have diabetes, type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, I see the PSA ads all the time for A1C, get your A1C tested. It seems like that's something that pretty much everyone probably could do or should do. Let me ask you, how would I know without the blood work? Are
Mhm.
there certain um, indications that I might have diabetes? If I haven't gone to the doctor recently, if I haven't had my blood work or urinalysis.
Mhm. So classic symptoms are extreme thirst, very tired, very hungry, blurred vision. But those are when the blood sugars get really high, right? So you can be walking around with a mildly high number, but not have the symptoms, right? Or you can say, wow, I've been thirsty. Maybe it's what I ate. Maybe I just had so it's hot out, certainly very hot in New Jersey. Um,
And Charlotte, I might add, it's
is
close to
it?
90 today. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. So those are not always things that are going to like, run to the doctor. When I'm thirsty, so, let's just say like on average, a normal blood sugar is say like 100 to 120. You're not going to really feel those symptoms until your blood sugar is 250 and above.
Mm.
So you can be walking around with a 190, a 200 and not even really know. But if you're urinating all night long, you cannot quench that thirst. Blurred vision, very tired. Those are the classic symptoms of high blood sugars or hyperglycemia.
You were talking about the blood, the glucose, I guess it's the glucose, so the sugar measurement. There are a lot of available detectors now. It used to be that there was blood work that you would do, like a finger prick, that people
Mhm.
who had diabetes they could test their blood. It seems like the technology, though, has evolved so that if you are curious and want to track your blood sugar, you can do that even over the counter or get a prescription.
Correct. So there are they're called continuous glucose monitors. It's something that you wear typically on your arm. and it measures the glucose level, not in the blood. It measures it a little bit differently. It's the interstitial fluid, but it's still pretty accurate. So certain insurance companies will cover it if you have diabetes and are on certain medicines. But there is one brand that you don't even need a prescription that you can buy over the counter.
So let's talk about, so let's just say that you've gone to the doctor, or at least you've had some of these indications, you've gone to the doctor, you've been diagnosed. Let's stick with type 2, because I think type 1, as you said, that's more of an autoimmune reaction that requires a lot of medical advice and direction. But let's talk about type 2. What can we do? Can you reverse? So say you have type 2 diabetes. Can you eliminate or reverse that completely?
So once you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, you can't reverse it. Okay. So you can control it. You can keep those blood sugars normal with a healthy diet and exercise, or medicine. But you can't go back to not having diabetes. If you have pre-diabetes, you can prevent the progression to type 2. And, but you can, you can go into what they call remission, where your numbers are normal for your hemoglobin A1Cs, not at the normal range, but at target.
So let's talk about the pre-diabetes for a second. What can I do if someone's watching this? I'm in my 50s, but let's just say a younger person is watching the show. What can they do to avoid even getting into the pre-diabetic or the diabetic stage, the type 2 diabetic stage?
So exercise, we really need to just exercise more often. The recommendations are, 60 minutes a day, and eat healthy. But you know what, everybody, eat healthy. What does that mean, really?
Yeah.
Really sitting down, like, I'm from the Mali Diabetes Education Center. So what we do is we educate. So we have nurses and we have dietitians. I learn something new from the dietitians all the time. I'm a nurse, but I didn't realize how many calories are in a chunk of cheese. So actually sitting down with someone, and having them help you with your diet, because your diet is different than my diet. What I like may be different than what you like. And we work around that. We don't eliminate what you like. We modify your diet for you and make it work for you for the rest of your life.
And I would imagine that there are certain foods you probably want to stay away from or minimize. I mean, look, moderation is probably the key, but you probably want to stay away from like refined, ultra processed foods is one that comes to mind. But you're the expert. So are there things that we should maybe minimize or eliminate completely?
Absolutely. Take away all the regular sodas and juices.
All right, that's off. Gone.
There's no need for regular soda, no need for juices. They're not healthy. They're actually our emergency treatment for a low blood sugar because it shoots it so up. Yes, the refined foods, those things that have a shelf life forever, and you could sit them on your counter and they're never gonna get moldy. Those are ultra processed foods. You want more of your whole foods, your whole grains, your vegetables, your fruits, and a lot of people are, well, they're expensive. You catch them in season, catch them when they're on sale. Frozen vegetables and frozen fruits are just as healthy as the fresh. So there's really a way to eat healthy and not, go broke on a healthy diet.
Yeah,
we even have a shopping tour, and a lot of your supermarkets have dietitians there too that you can tap into to find out what to eat.
Are there certain, I've heard of the glycemic index. So like when you think of fruits have sugar, maybe, apple, grapes, peaches. I mean, they all have, watermelon comes to mind because it's almost summer. Should you kind of really reevaluate the types of fruits you're eating?
Well, it's the amount. So the great thing about fruit is it has so much fiber in it also. So the fiber, we all need more fiber in our diet, and the fiber also slows down the absorption of glucose, right? So when you eat that apple, eat the skin. When you have the grapes, the skin on the grapes too are great. And if you have a fruit, have a little protein or a handful of nuts or a little string cheese or something with it, because it's the combination of foods too that impact your blood sugar, right? But it's easy to just keep eating that watermelon, right? Especially
Oh,
at
it's so
this
good.
time of year,
It's so,
watermelon and cantaloupe.
my grandmother could pick a cantaloupe and a watermelon like no one's business. And I grew up on that stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay, no, those are great. But yeah, you just have to, everything in moderation. We don't need to eat the whole watermelon. We don't need to eat the whole cantaloupe, even though it's easy to do. Again, it is healthy, but it has natural sugar in it. We all need to be careful.
I know you work at the Mali Diabetes Education Center. If we need additional information, obviously people should go to their primary care physician on a regular basis to get all their blood work done. But let's just say they're in between and they want to get resources. Where can they go to find just basic information, all the things we're talking about today, and again, it gets steered in the right direction. I don't even know if that's a word, but where do they go?
They can go on to the American Diabetes Association website. They have a lot of good material on there. Hackensack has a lot of good material on there, or it used to be called JDRF. Now it's called Type 1 Nation. Those are for those with type 1 diabetes. So there's a lot of good resources on that too.
Yep, got to read up on it. And for you youngsters out there, now's the time. Don't get into your 50s and start having problems. Toni, we're going to have to leave it there. Great piece on the Hackensack site, which is how we found you. Thanks so much for joining us. You're a wealth of diabetes knowledge. I'm sure other types of knowledge as well. And we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Well, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we're back again tomorrow morning with another great expert and another great topic. You can tune in right here Monday through Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place, delivered directly to your email box. Check it out at our website.